Welcome back to Spooky Happy Hour. I'm your host, Bree, and on the final episode of 2024, I am taking you back to recap this year. The first order of business. How did I get here? Let's go to February 2024 when I exited a tumultuous and painfully cyclical relationship of 2 years. At that point, I knew I had been putting myself on the back burner and I had to start the journey of getting back to me. So naturally, I started thinking, what is always on my mind? What am I always Googling? What am I always researching? What's usually on my TV or computer screen that I'm watching? And it was staring at me in the face, as the universe usually does, and said, well, duh, ghost hunting. Now, I've always been into the paranormal. You all know that. So naturally, watching ghost shows, reading spooky novels, urban exploring when I was younger, traveling to all these haunted and historical locations throughout my life, it finally led me to investigating them myself. So naturally, once I left that relationship in February and really got back to my supernatural roots, I needed to find a way to get out there and immerse myself in them, not just in my head or on the TV, but actually doing it. So by March, my friend Becca and I, who I met in the Fear Club, we started this podcast. We wanted to pay some homage to the group that connected us, Project Fear, of course, and started doing episode reviews of Destination Fear. That lit up my world. I started researching haunted locations and was thinking about even going to some of them. I had this great newfound friend who loved it as much as I did, and we were really wearing our creative hats nonstop. By April, I went to a metaphysical and psychic fair where I met who I call my spiritual advisor, Katie, featured on this podcast, season 2, episode 7. And I learned so much about myself, my connection to the occult. She introduced me to other people like Elena at Celebrate Every Step, which led me to past life regressions and human design work. And it really opened up my entire relationship with myself. And for that, I will be so thankful and grateful for them forever because it's truly changed my life. By May, I went on my first public paranormal investigation at Hillview Manor solo. They maybe allowed 30 people on the investigation, so most of the time I felt completely alone, and really I was. All I had was the mag light and a digital recorder. Strolling those halls by myself, feeling totally scared and really brave, I kept getting smacked in the face with the realization that I was finally doing the thing that I had been scared to do and was waiting for someone to do it with me and that I was just fine. More than fine, really. I was thriving. I felt alive. This catapulted me into my next adventure at Penhurst State School and Asylum for Paracon with Becca. We investigated from sunup to sundown. The moment they let us through the doors, the moment that we left, you could not get us out of those buildings. We were hooked, and it was a calling that we had knew that we found. By June, I had booked 2 investigations. One was at a local haunt, the Liberty Theater and Museum, with a local group that I only met via social media, and then we did meet once in person at Penhurst the month before. So I thought, how in the world could this have been in my backyard all this time? And I had no clue that there were paranormal accounts coming from this place that I used to watch my cousin practice karate in elementary school. It proved to be one of the most engaging places I'd ever been and investigated it more times than I can count this year. Later in that month, I convinced one of my best friends to come with me on another public paranormal investigation at Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, a mecca in the ghost hunting realm and significantly larger than Hillview Manor. This time, adding a spirit box video camera to my equipment toolbox. It was my first attempt at really documenting any of my attempts to communicate with spirit. And when I got home, a lot of my footage wasn't audible. I forgot to turn on the microphone for much of it. Tell me you're technologically challenged without telling me. We spent 10 hours in the asylum, traveled back and got a few hours of sleep, and then trekked home feeling really groggy but fulfilled. And I thought to myself, when do I book my next one? Well, July, of course, the next month. July was the first time I'm at Madison Seminary, my absolute all-time favorite location to date. Shout out to Haunted Nights for such a great time. Olivia from Shadow Sessions Paranormal, aka last week's video, was also there, which is how we met and became friends. I also met Courtney, aka the Ghoul Guide, and Steve and Dylan from Haunted Nights for the first time after having them on the podcast too. Check it out, season 2, episodes 2 and 3. That investigation was just as much connecting with newfound friendships as it was with spirits. Learning from others who had been doing this much longer than I had and having so much fun with it made me feel like I had a connection to a community, a place that I could really belong. By August, Becca decided to leave the podcast for personal reasons, and I felt a little defeated. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Do I continue with this on my own? Is this going to be as fun as if I'm solo? Will this be too much work? Since we had worked our asses off all year long doing sometimes 2 to 3 videos a week, it was time for a much needed break. I went to the beach, as I do every year with my family, and I sat under the gorgeous full supermoon and I meditated on it. And I found the answer. Yes, continue. The journey is just getting started. I started walking the Ghost Town Trail every morning before work, and these long nature walks, I'd recall memories from my childhood and books that I read about the paranormal accounts that happened on the trail, which was once a railroad route that connected coal towns in rural Pennsylvania. A lot of my creative thinking happened on my nature strolls, and I felt more connected to myself than I had been in such a long time. And I reflected on my journey over and over and over again. I had only one more event coming up that year at that time, so I booked another one at the Cambria County Jail for my 34th birthday, giving me another thing to look forward to. So by September, I was invited to have a booth at my very first paranormal convention. I was really nervous and was scared. I wasn't sure what to expect. Again, I made new friends and more future plans to collaborate while meeting some local community members and investigative teams and a lot of artists who shared the same passion that I did of exploring the supernatural and using their talents to make different items from it. I met Emily from Residual Haunts and the guys of Paranormal Theory. You can watch their episodes on the Unity special playlist. And that really catapulted into all these different private investigations and really wonderful friendships. After that, I went back to Madison Seminary with another friend of mine who I met through the Fear Club. Nothing like going to pick up a stranger from the airport and road tripping to a different state to spend the weekend with them, hunting ghosts and sleeping in the same Airbnb. Literally 15 years before today, we would have been urged not to meet somebody from the internet. But now, here I am, best of friends, me and Kayla. This led to meeting so many other new people, Karina and Cheyenne, who we now run through our paranormal plans for the next year via our group chat, and Savannah and Kalani. Check out Sav on season 3, episode 6, who I feel like I have known for ages now. September was such a big month for events, and I attended the Cryptic Convention in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and I met Bump in the Night Society. Again, we had bumped into each other throughout the year, and they invited me to investigate a largely untapped location, a Masonic temple, and we captured a very compelling piece of evidence. I was solo by myself for this, and that evidence is actually going to be featured in their documentary being released soon. So please stay tuned for that. It's pretty cool. Largely, September was the month of connection. So by October, spooky season started. My absolute favorite month, Halloween, the peak of fall, pumpkin patches, haunted houses, and of course, my birthday. All month long, I look forward to the Cambria County Jail investigation with Emily, Ryan, Nick, Brent, and Andrew. As soon as I invited them all for this investigation the month prior when we all met, I had spent every moment since then manifesting that I would get the solo. Paranormal Theory was doing a YouTube video and making this an episode for their channel, and I had agreed to participate. I knew that it would be a chance that I would get the solo. I was ready to push myself out of my comfort zone. I was nervous, I was excited, and albeit pretty reserved, partly because I didn't really want to shit my pants due to fear and then it be posted all over YouTube later. But the moment I pulled that little ghosty out of the black bag and it was revealed to have had an X on the back, meaning that I was getting handcuffed to a jail cell with the Ghost Tube Seer app on my head alone for 30 minutes, I knew that this moment was meant for me. I had daydreamed about it so much for the last month, it was hard to believe I was finally living it. It meant so much for me to be present outside of my comfort zone and feel accomplished by the end of it. This challenge led me to get more and more creative. And there are some upcoming paranormal projects that I can't wait to share with you in 2025. Finally, November was here and it started to slow down. Just kidding. No, it didn't. New Jersey Paraunity Expo kicked off that month with a bang. We met so many new friends, partied with old ones, and I got to meet one of the biggest influences in my tarot card journey, Madam Adam. NJP also marked a spiritual kind of event for me because it was the first time I understood how my openness in human design affects me in real time. I learned to guard my energy more. I learned to curb my expectations of others. I learned I needed a great deal of time to recharge alone. And I learned that I can still shine, even when my shine isn't recognized. That was a helpful experience to have. It also led me to the melding of separate female friendships into this new group of femininity and empowerment and friendship. All these different seasons of friends coming together to form was probably one of the biggest highlights of the year. So, thank you to my paranormal community for giving me all of the wonderful people that I have in my life right now. After NJP, Emily, Andrew, and I went to the McCoy house, a never before investigated bed and breakfast. We met up with Emily's friend Sage of Steel City Paranormal, and the four of us led the owner and her friend through an investigation to get answers that she was looking for. As I was under Estes, the owner heard from her deceased father, and knowing that I was able to be the conduit for her dad to come through and give her a message made my heart so full. It was the highlight of that investigation for me. Then a few weeks later, I got the unexpected opportunity to investigate Crescent Sanatorium and Prison. For all of you who have followed along this year, you know how much this meant to me. I felt a little left out about not being able to investigate there and knowing so many of my friends and others who I look up to in the paranormal community being able to have done so already. Returning with Dark Hollow Paranormal, check out their episode on season 2, episode 4, as well as with Emily and Andrew was really perfect. It felt like the best way to round out the year and close the door on investigations for 2024 and rest for all of what's to come in 2025. And trust me, it's a lot. You do not want to miss it. I hope you choose to continue following me and let me know any places that you'd like to see me go, people who I should interview, and overall what direction that you'd like to see me go from here. I appreciate all of you so, so much for continuing to be along on the journey. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season, and I will see you in 2025. Cheers.